Welcome to This Week in Morgan County. I'm your host, Russell Mokhiber. Our guest this week is Leslie Milbourne. Leslie is the founder of the Winddance Farm and Earth Education Center here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. Leslie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Russell.
Well, so Leslie, what brought you to Morgan County and when?
I came in 2001 with the intention to be on a farm and to start a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, and also to open a nature center.
And where are you in Morgan County? Where is your place?
Southern Morgan County.
Southern. How did you find that place, by the way?
It was an arduous and long task. I came from a small town outside of Philadelphia called Jenkintown, and I wanted to be within a 4-hour radius of my family. So we looked in various places in that circle around 4 hours, and I just kept going further west. And as prices were extremely high, close to Jenkintown, so I just kept going further west. And finally, a friend of mine said, "What are you looking for? Describe to me." And I said, "Okay." So I described it to her, and she popped it in the internet, and up popped the farm that I'm living on right now.
Wow.
So that, and I knew nothing of Berkeley Springs. I didn't know anything about the community, what it had to offer. I just fell in love with the farm the minute I saw it.
And the idea at the time was a farm for your own purposes, to grow food.
Well, it had multi-purposes. One was to provide for ourselves, and also to open a nature center and to start a CSA eventually. And after we moved there, Cape State Park opened a nature center. I did some research prior to that and realized there's no nature center. There needs to be a nature center in the area. That's important. And then it was wonderful that Cape State Park opened a nature center a year or two after we were there. So the plans shifted. We started homeschooling our daughter, Chinea, and the homeschool community was very strong, and I realized there was a need to provide a program for children that parents can drop their children off and then pick them up at the end of the day. And I offered that to parents for 1 day a week, and it filled up within a couple of days. I offered it for 12 students, and it was filled immediately. And that was 1 day a week. So that started our educational pursuits, that along with our summer camps. And from there, we just kept growing, and currently we have students 4 days a week. We have 25 students, and we're packed into our little small log cabin.
Now those are, it's interesting because there is a strong homeschool community here in Morgan County. Are those 25 students primarily from Morgan County or all from Morgan County?
No, they're starting to come from Martinsburg, also from Pennsylvania. We have about 5 students from Pennsylvania, maybe 4 from Martinsburg.
Okay. So
area.
These are homeschool students, but it's no longer homeschooling when they're no longer at home. So you actually sort of have a homeschool away from home.
We supplement what they do at home.
Okay.
So no student comes more than twice a week. I couldn't justify them being homeschooled if they were with me 4 days. So even though we have 25 students, they're only with me 1 or 2 days a week, and they're at home at the other days.
And what do you teach?
A lot. We teach environmental education, which includes natural history, environmental science, history. We're doing ancient history right now. We teach traditional music, song and dance. We also do conservation, a lot of conservation efforts. And we,
well, also, for example,
science, a lot of science.
And also not just traditional music, just the traditions, like Native American traditions.
Yes.
Full disclosure, our kids went to Winddance and they learned about Native American ways and so forth.
We focus a lot on wilderness skills, which includes wild crafting, and that's going out and foraging for plants that are edible or used for medicinal purposes, and then using them and preparing them for our use.
Now there's new developments at Winddance, including this beautiful building that's going up. Tell us about how that came about, what the idea is, and how that came about.
Our cabin is small. You've been in our cabin. You've
Yes.
been in our basement.
Right.
It's packed from wall to wall, floor to ceiling, with so many things because all of our CSA products are in there, all the camp activities come out of there, and all the homeschool students programs come out of there. So we didn't even have a finished basement the first year. When your children were there, everything was upstairs. We even each week took our bed mattress and flopped it up against the wall so we could have space in our cabin to spread out a little bit. And then eventually we got the basement filled and moved down there with the children. And that space is very tight. So I spoke with a parent who is also a board member, Tim Newton, about a dream to have a different facility, a different space away from our home. And he asked a lot of questions. And then one day he showed up on our porch with 7 pages of plans. And I looked at them and I said, wow, that's fabulous. That's what we need. This is a picture of the finished building, what it will look like when it is finished. And it is 2 stories. The first floor is an agricultural center, and the second floor will be the education activities, as well as there's a loft that will be the Nina Schwartz Library. So
Named after our friend
Nina
who
Schwartz.
just passed away
Yes.
recently.
That's right.
And she was a supporter of Winddance.
She was, both David and Nina Schwartz were big supporters. They really loved what we did, and I went over to their home often talking to them about different educational activities. And they were a real inspiration from many of the books that I read to children.
Well, let me ask you about the building.
Sure.
How close to is it being? Almost how close to it?
The story behind the building is fascinating. We have, to answer your question directly, and then I'd like to go in a little bit more depth. The timber frame construction is complete. It is up. And the next stage is the roof. That is going on the end of March, and that's in 2 phases, the roofing system. And from there, we need to continue to raise money to get the walls up. And I'm writing grants right now for the windows and doors.
Okay. Now, tell us about how this was built, because it's a fascinating story about
Yes.
where you got the materials and who helped build it and how they built it.
So we had these plans that Tim developed. And then a neighbor, one of our other board members, Gary Stewart, came to a meeting one day and said, our neighbors have lost a lot of trees. There's several of them blown down in the windstorm that we had a few years ago in the Duragio. And the family offered those trees to us. This was 120 oak trees that blew down. And there is a lull in the hill behind where they live, and when the wind came, it just knocked all these trees straight down. So we found the Shank family came and looked at the trees.
From
and
Pennsylvania.
They are from Pennsylvania. They are timber framers. And they came in and removed the trees from the woods, and then they set up a sawmill at the base of our property and cut the logs. It was really fascinating. The whole family worked together on it. The children were homeschooled, and they worked. And they took those some of that timber up to their farm in Pennsylvania, and then hand-hewed the pieces so that it would be for the construction of the frame. And they brought back what are called bents, and the bents are what hold the building up. They go in a line like this, and there's different structures, there's different styles of bents. And then they were finished their job, and then we had 2 other timber frame raisers come and meet with us, and Bruce Cowie was one of them. He is based in Cape on the other side of
Great
Cape at this point. He came to us knowing that we were building this timber frame construction after reading about us in the newspaper. And he said, I want to help. And we needed the help, and it was fabulous. He came and he looked at the frame, and timber framers usually raise what they build. So this was a different situation. He was coming into the middle of the construction. The frame was already created, but it was not up. And he looked at it for a long time, trying to figure things out, and then he said, we can do this. We can raise it. So it took a while, but it was all put together, and he brought on another wonderful timber framer, Al Thomas, who's from Shepherdstown, right?
I met Al.
And we had a big timber frame raising last November, and a lot of volunteers from our local community as well as our extended community came and helped raise the frame. So now the frame is up, and we had a second level, and the first level is done, and now the roof will go on, and we're really excited about the roof.
And I noticed in the picture the roof is, what's the roof going to be made out of?
Well, the picture showed a thatched roof, and that's really what Tim was desiring, was a thatched roof, and we had a thatcher come out.
And what is a thatched roof?
It's taking phragmites and latching them together, like the homes in Ireland.
Is it hay? Is it no?
It's like a hay.
Like a
it's
hay.
a grass. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to work.
That's not happening.
Why didn't that happen?
For two reasons. It was really expensive, and then I had a couple of concerns about insurance, and then if there needed to be a repair, getting it repaired. You know, thatch roofers are not.
So what's it going to be now? What's the roof going to be?
We have, it's a two-stage process. We have SIPs, structurally insulated panels, ordered from Acme Company, which makes all their products with solar energy, which is exciting, and they are an insulation of 40 value. So it's a thick foam that's 10 inches thick, and on either side is OSB board. They will get lifted. They're huge. They're 8 by 24 panels. They will get lifted and put onto the roof, and then following that is imitation slate tiles. Okay. And that's going to look really great. The tiles are 80% recycled rubber and plastic, and the company gave us a 40% discount, which is wonderful.
Now, in case our listeners don't know, Winddance is a nonprofit organization, and you are building this building for the community, and people can donate to it to help build the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then go to your website. What is your website?
WindDanceFarm.org.
Okay, so people can go to your website, see what you do, and if they feel like contributing, they can.
They can go to the fundraiser button, and then they'll see a donate button.
And there's a video too, right? About,
yes.
That tells about what you're doing. Now, your children are remarkable, and they also write books. Tell us about the books that they've written.
Okay, there's 2 books that have been published, and they both have interest in stories. First, I'll talk about this.
By the way, your children are my children too, but let's,
right, I understand.
just as background.
Yeah. This is Saving Annie's Mountain. It was written by 4 students, one, your son, of course, Nico. And we were studying West Virginia, and we came across, we were studying about the geology and about coal and the history of coal. And what I wanted to explore with the children was mountaintop removal and the history of Blair Mountain, and there was very little available for youth. There was a lot about the history of Blair Mountain, where the battle took place in 1921 between the miners and the coal companies when the miners were trying to get down to unionize in southern West Virginia. And the history was scant. What was available in textbooks was really short, a couple of sentences. It didn't go in depth. And mountaintop removal, there's a lot of videos and information, but it's more geared to, adults. So I did some research, reading books about the mine wars, and the information that was available was too dramatic for the kids. I didn't want them to really be exposed to some of the things that truly went on. So the research that I did, I pulled together and I explained to the kids about the history of Blair Mountain and the war that was there. Also about how Blair Mountain was up being threatened by mountaintop removal. And we talked about how the information was not really accessible to children. So I said, what do we do? And they said, let's write a book. So out of the 12 students, 4 chose to take that challenge on and write the book. And so this is a story about, it's a historical fiction, and it's about 4 students who leave Morgan County, and they go down to southern Morgan County to join a group of people.
Southern West Virginia.
Southern West Virginia,
Yeah.
thank you. Who join a group of marchers who are reenacting the walk that the miners did in 1921. So in 2011, there was this reenactment happening for 2 reasons: so that people would become more educated about the mine wars, as well as to bring light to the threat of mountaintop removal to Blair Mountain. So the book is about these 4 students who go down and they join this march, but their teacher has given them a mission to meet people who live there and to interview them, to talk to them, to find out what their lives are like. So this book is about these 4 students meeting different people, and they meet 2 children. One boy's home is being affected by mountaintop removal. Another boy, his father works for the company. So they got different perspectives. And then they meet Annie. And Annie is an old woman who lives in a dilapidated cabin. And she brings them into the house, and she talks to the children about her time when she was living in a coal camp in 1921, when her father was working to help with the unions, and that how her father was part of the Battle of Blair Mountain. So that's the essence of the story. And
you also took the children to Southern West Virginia. Not just these 4, but a group of more than that, right?
Yes,
to Southern West Virginia. And you showed them mountaintop removal mining, which was truly remarkable, because most of the children in high school across the United States don't understand or don't get this alternative view of the history of the United States and what happened. For example, I remember going to a state soccer championship where the Berkeley Springs High School kids won the state soccer championship, and the plaque was sponsored by Friends of Coal. So the coal industry has actually sought to influence the education system. So I thought it was really important that you took the kids to Southern West Virginia to show them this alternative universe about what's happening down there.
I've taken a couple of groups down, and the goal of the trips are to show them the diversity of the mountains. Appalachian Mountains are the 2nd most diverse mountains or ecosystem in the world, next to the rainforest. And the other goal was to show them what is happening to the mountains through mountaintop removal. So the trip included going to Dolly Sods, going to Spruce Knob, just seeing all these beautiful places, and then taking them to see the mountaintop removal. Right. And I did take this group down, and I was not comfortable with this book being published without them experiencing what they were writing about.
Right. And the other book?
The other book, There's Something Wild in There. This is a seek and find book. This is about animals living in the woods, and then children read a poem, and the poem reveals the animal that is hidden, and then the children look for the animal in the woods. This has an interest in history as well. Very briefly, the illustrator of this book died without any words to go with the illustrations that he created. And one of our students, Samantha Stewart, met his wife on a train. And they just started talking about books, and the illustrator's wife was kind enough to say, I need somebody to write the story to go with my husband's illustrations. And Samantha said, I know a place where that can happen. And the illustrations came to us. 3 girls worked together to write the story that goes with these pictures. And it's quite a fun book to read.
Now, you also are starting a program in the Morgan County schools for environmental education?
That's correct.
Tell us about that. What is it called, and what do you plan to do?
Once the building is up and we have the proper facilities to accommodate more students, we have invited the schools to be part of our programs, to come for a field trip. And we had our first field trip last year. It was a kindergarten class from Pleasant View. And a busload of kids came, and we were ready for them, and we provided a really great program all day long for them. The one problem we have is our bathroom facilities are so minimal that we really need to make sure that we have the proper facilities.
And that'll be solved by the new building.
Yes, and even when the roof comes on to the new building, we'll have a huge pavilion to work with, and we'll be able to expand our offerings. We have programs designed for kindergarten through 8th grade. We have a pamphlet in place. The activities are all supported by the science curriculum within the schools, and the Two Rivers Given Circle has given us a grant for.
What is Two Rivers?
It's a foundation that works with the Eastern Panhandle Community Foundation, and they have given us a grant for school buses to bring students out.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
And when does when will this program begin? You've already done Pleasant View. Will you do the high school and the junior high school?
Yeah, right now we're set up to do kindergarten through 8th grade. And then once we get that down solid, then we'll expand to the high school offerings. Okay. We have had high school students come out to us with their science teacher, but nothing formal or in place yet.
Now, give us some insight on the homeschooling community here. Across the country, there seems to be a split. There are religious homeschoolers, there are back-to-the-earth homeschoolers. Mm-hmm. Yours is more back-to-the-earth homeschoolers, or do you also bring in the religious homeschoolers?
We have an eclectic group of kids. We have some kids who are very spiritual, some kids who attend Protestant and Catholic churches, and we have some from the Muslim communities or from the Sufi community, and we have children who don't attend any religious facility. So we don't close.
But do you know what I mean?
doors
Do you know
to
what I mean
anybody.
about this? The
yes.
two camps.
Yes.
I wouldn't say they're just two camps, but there are. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is that you take in kids from both equally, or is it primarily not?
No. I think I think it's unfortunate that there are a lot of people who will not consider having their children come to us because we are not Christian-based.
And so primarily it's alternative type of schooling.
A lot of my background in education is alternative education,
okay.
And that's what I'm geared to do.
Right. We have a couple minutes left and a couple more things I want to talk about. One is the relationship between homeschoolers and the public schools, because a lot of homeschoolers do both. Like our boys homeschooled through high school, then went to high school. Give us your sense of how that's working. I mean, obviously you're going to be doing programs with the public schools, and they're going to be coming to you, and your sense about that balance, homeschool, public school.
I think the homeschool students that I am familiar with have really a good foundation when they become teenagers. And if they choose to go to high school, they do well. And not only well, but really excel. And then most of them go on to higher education, if not all of them. So I see that being an easy transition for most of them. And some of the homeschoolers that we have now are of high school age. The children are ages 5 through 16 that attend our programs. Some of those teenagers actually take a couple of classes in the morning at high school and then come to Winddance as well. Yeah.
Coming up on, you have a summer program.
We have summer camps.
You have summer camps. We have a couple minutes left, so
okay.
Finally tell us about the summer camp program.
The summer camps are, we have 5 summer camps, 2 day camps for the local community, and then we have overnight camps, 3 overnight camps for the local community, as well as it can be expanded outside of the Berkeley Springs area. And they are based on wilderness, farm, and conservation efforts, as well as the arts.
And it's you're teaching also. You're teaching. Is it similar to the homeschool experience, the summer camp experience?
Well, everything's outside, so we're outside all the time, and it's there's still nature studies and there's still wilderness skills going on, but there are less like book work. Like there's not paperwork going on, and assignments. I give assignments to our homeschool kids, and so it's different. There's a lot more games, and everyone takes siesta every afternoon. Yeah.
All right. Well, a lot more to talk about, but that's a good introduction. Your website again is?
Winddancefarm.org.
Okay. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Russell.
And thank you for watching This Week in Morgan County.